This is the Tree of Life, Season 12, Chapter 3. In this episode, we will be returning to the 9 plates of meaning of every exchange, and integrating our discussion of structures with that subject matter. We will start off our discussion by reintroducing the 9 plates of meaning. To start off, there are 9 plates by which meaning is expressed by the body, comprising 5 plates corresponding to spatiality, and 4 plates comprising the higher, or emotional plates. The 5 plates corresponding to spatiality are the plate of spatial location, the postural plate, the plate of the voice, the plate of the face, the plate of the hands. The higher, or emotional plates, are the emotional plate, the archetypal plate, the symbolic plate, the esoteric plate. Now, in past episodes, we discussed how there are 9 levels to every intersection, 9 dialogues corresponding to the expression of 9 impulses, 9 paths corresponding to each intersection. These are all just various ways of looking at the same question, namely, the presence of negation, the occurrence of a substitution event, and the resumption of time parsimony. Let me explain what I mean. When the substitution time is minimal, when the correction time is absent, the time corresponding to the loss of time parsimony is minimal, and these 9 paths corresponding to each intersection are shorter, segregated by a spatial location. Which is to say, the degree by which the convolution of each descending path depends upon the substitution time corresponding to the first convoluted path. What this means in practice is the following. Intersections, as explained in a previous podcast, can be of some emotional content, of any emotional content, that is, they can comprise any one of the 9 plates, individually, or all 9 together. Each of the 9 plates of intersection represents a geometric window for the formation of a dissonant space pursuant to a substitution event. What does this mean in practice? It means that typically, we express our impulses physically through the 9 plates of meaning, in the absence of concealment, and we will get back to this shortly. The spatial plates, thus, through the expression of an impulse, or its negation, represent in their particular geometric form the substitution time corresponding to the underlying impulse. Which is to say, if, for example, the movement corresponding to the negated impulse only takes a few seconds, then the degree of path convolution permitted pursuant to the descending paths, corresponding to that dissonant space, are shorter than they would be if it took, say, 30 seconds. Now, this means that the scale, corresponding to the more convoluted paths, is lower than it would be if the initial path was for a longer impulse. Now, the geometric forms corresponding to the expression, or negation of an impulse, corresponding to a particular spatial plate, reflects a given structure to those impulses. Now, I am not saying that a trigonal hybrid structure created by actors A, B, and C, as in our example of last season, would describe all 3-person intersections. What I am saying is that the vertices of the structure may be reflective of the number of persons participating. Now, concealment is what produces longer substitution times, creating delay in the corresponding expression, or negation of impulses through each of the 9 plates. In other words, there are natural conventional substitution time ranges corresponding to each of the 9 plates, which we generally don't go beyond. Except in the case of concealment of impulses. This can take the form of intentional, or attentional modifications to the expression of impulses through the 9 plates of meaning. Which is to say, in the absence of this concealment, substitution times shorten, and the result is tighter structures, which produce intersections corresponding to 9 levels within a single spatial intersection represented by these geometric windows in spatial movements. In other words, because concealment is necessary to lengthen a substitution time beyond some minimal range, it is necessary to enhance the scale corresponding to the convolution of the 9 descending paths relating to a single intersection. Now, each intersection, corresponding to the 9 levels or plates, when the substitution time is minimal, possesses the same processes as follow the creation of a dissonant space. Phenomenologically, this means the dissonant space is created by the negation of an impulse. The negation of an impulse creates a dissonant space, which produces a hybrid structure, represented by the geometric structure corresponding to the particular movement, which is negated. This hybrid structure induces a displacement event within path parsimony, such that the convoluted path retrocausally replaces path parsimony. This means that in the processing of a hybrid structure, the impulse dialectical to the negated impulse results from said substitution. Now, what does this look like practically? In past episodes, we were talking about a spatial path, a variation of that path, due to a displacement event, such that path parsimony is retrospectively replaced by the lower convoluted path. But when the substitution time is minimal, the result is shifts in unconscious movements, corresponding to the same plate as the negated impulse. In other words, these dissonant spaces produce pockets of unconscious attention, residual movements corresponding to the substitution of the more convoluted path in the movement corresponding to that plate. It is this segmentation of time parsimony into smaller and smaller chunks of time, which produces a quality of nonlinearity within the conjoined consensuality. In that, because time parsimony is only interrupted for such short periods, with the corresponding resumption reflecting no intervening impulses, or minimal lost time, the result is the expression of the underlying impulses according to time parsimony, or the expectations of the conjoined consensuality. That's the end of the podcast for today.